Pisces, there are moments in life when you don't hear a clear sound, yet you feel as if something is gently touching you from the inside. Not with words, but with a feeling that feels familiar and unmistakably real. A feeling that slows your heart, that makes you pause in the middle of a rushing world and quietly ask yourself why this moment feels different from all the others. If you are feeling that now, trust this. It is not imagination, and it is not random. This call does not come from a phone number. It doesn't appear on a screen. There is no ringtone, no notification, no alert asking for your attention. It arrives quietly, like morning light slipping through a narrow window, like a soft breeze that only those who are truly still can feel. This is a call from the universe, from your intuition, from a moment that has ripened. After many years of walking difficult paths in silence, Pisces, you have doubted yourself more than most. You have wondered whether your depth was a weakness, whether your sensitivity put you at a disadvantage in a world that moves too fast and speaks too loudly. You learned how to stay quiet, how to endure, how to smile, even when you were deeply tired inside. And in those unseen years, you grew in ways very few people ever noticed. This call is not here to scare you. It comes to confirm something simple, yet profoundly important. You are ready. Ready to hear a deeper truth about yourself. Ready to step out of roles you have carried for too long. Ready to live with more kindness toward yourself, instead of only giving, instead of always sacrificing. You may not have noticed it, but you have been changing quietly for a long time. What once felt familiar no longer fits the same way. Old conversations no longer bring peace. Goals that once excited you now feel distant, almost faded. This is not confusion. This is movement. It is what happens when the soul begins to ask for a life that feels more honest, more aligned with who you truly are. This call comes to you because you have learned how to listen, not to the noise of the world, but to yourself. You have experienced enough disappointment to understand that not every answer lives outside of you. Some answers only appear when you are brave enough to sit with yourself in silence, in honesty, in acceptance. And right now, as you are hearing these words, you may not yet know where this call will lead. You don't need to know. What matters is that you heard it. You did not turn away. You did not ignore the very real sensation vibrating inside you. That alone is already a meaningful step forward, even if no one else can see it. In the middle of all the noise of life, there is a frequency meant only for you, a gentle reminder that you have not been forgotten, that your journey matters, and that nothing you endured was meaningless. As you begin to believe this, you will realize that what is arriving now is not coincidence, but the result of a long road. You walked with your whole heart, and as the space inside you grows a little quieter, as your breath slows, you will begin to understand something important. This call was never just a single moment. It is the connection of many small signs that have been appearing quietly for a long time, waiting for you to become still enough to notice that they were always there, patient, gentle, and never truly gone. Some signs never arrive loudly. They don't interrupt your life. They don't force their way in. They don't demand attention. They simply exist, quietly, like small waves touching the shore of your mind, again and again. And Pisces, you've been sensing them for a long time. You were just too busy before to give them a name. Sometimes they appear in the most ordinary moments. An afternoon when everything looks the same, yet you suddenly feel an emptiness inside. A familiar song playing by chance, carrying an entire memory you thought had long fallen asleep. A dream that returns more than once, not perfectly clear, yet leaving a very real feeling when you wake. These moments don't come to weaken you. They come to remind you that something within you is asking to be seen. Pisces experiences the world through the heart, more than through logic. You know, when something is off, even when you can't explain why, that restlessness is not pointless anxiety. It's a quiet signal, letting you know that your soul has begun to shift, while the outer world continues moving. On old momentum, there are truths you have avoided for a long time, not because you were weak, but because you were kind. You were afraid of hurting others, afraid of breaking the fragile balance you worked so hard to maintain. Yet the truth remains, waiting quietly, without blame, without anger. It waits patiently, knowing that one day you will be strong enough to face it. The universe speaks in its own way. It doesn't shout. It whispers. It sends messages through repetition, through familiar feelings you can't ignore, through exhaustion that shows up, even when you haven't pushed yourself too hard. And when those whispers appear often enough, for long enough, they begin to connect, forming an invisible thread that gently leads you back to yourself. You are not lost. You are simply entering a phase where old layers begin to fall away. Naturally, what no longer fits starts to feel heavy. What is no longer true begins to feel unfamiliar, even if it once felt close. This is not loss. This is necessary clearing, so you can breathe more freely again. And then, somewhere among all these small signs, there comes a moment when you realize you no longer want to ignore your own feelings. You begin to listen more carefully to what your heart is saying, not to react, but to understand, not to change everything at once, but to accept that you are standing before a different doorway. When you allow yourself this stillness, your inner world becomes clearer. Pieces that once felt scattered start to arrange themselves in a way that feels uniquely right. And in that quiet, you begin to sense that none of these signs were meant to confuse you. They were meant to guide you closer to a very important truth about who you are, a truth that only reveals itself when you are ready to see it. There is something very few people ever say out loud, but the soul always knows. Not everyone needs to receive this call, and not everyone is able to hear it. Life moves through countless people, leaving different marks along the way, but only a few hearts are deep enough, open enough to touch this frequency. Pisces is one of them. Not because you are better than others, but because you have lived your life through feeling without avoidance, without closing yourself off. You have carried more than most people ever saw. There are sorrows you held for years without ever naming them. There are sacrifices no one asked of you, yet you made them willingly because you believed that this was what love meant. You stayed in places others had already walked away from just to keep things from falling apart. And through all that time, you rarely stopped to ask yourself whether you were truly okay. This call does not come because you are weak. It comes because you are strong enough to no longer need to prove it. You waited a long time, not to be rescued, but to understand that no one needed to pull you out of the dark. You walked on your own, step by step, learning how to stand, even when no one was standing beside you. And it is that quiet strength, that silent growth, that brought you to this doorway. There may have been a moment when you realized you no longer belonged to what once felt familiar, not because you became unpredictable, but because you outgrew your old role. What you once tolerated now makes you restless. Relationships once held together by silence now feel heavy. This is not your failure. It is a sign that you have gone further than the person you used to be. This call comes to remind you that you are no longer standing where you once were. You no longer need to shrink yourself to fit into spaces that have grown too small. You no longer need to strain to hold on to what is already leaving. Some doors only open when you dare to believe you are worthy of walking through them, not through effort, but through permission. Pisces carries a very wide heart. You have the capacity to feel deeply, to heal, to see goodness, even in the most difficult circumstances. But through many wounds, you have also learned that kindness does not mean abandoning yourself, that sacrifice only has value when it does not cost you your own soul. And as you begin to understand this call arrives like a gentle confirmation. No one chose you by accident. The road you walked, the nights you survived alone, the times you stood back up when no one was watching, all of it placed you exactly here. This call does not demand immediate change. It does not ask you to have every answer. It simply invites you to recognize that you are ready for a different way of living, a way that is more honest, more free, and more compassionate toward yourself. And as you begin to feel this, very quietly, a new space opens inside you, a space no longer filled with obligation or expectation, but with clarity. And in that clarity, you will understand that this call is not another test. It is a gentle invitation, guiding you closer to who you have always been. Only now, you are finally ready to receive it. When you truly answer the call, the first thing that happens is not a dramatic event, not a sudden explosion that changes everything at once. It begins quietly, so softly, that almost no one else notices. One morning, you wake up and realize you are breathing more deeply. A moment when you look into the mirror and no longer feel the need to explain yourself to yourself. That change does not come from the outside. It spreads from a very deep place within you, a place you reached after many years of walking in circles around yourself. You begin to understand that your worth was never dependent on whether others understood you or not. Questions that once made you doubt yourself start to lose their weight. You no longer need to become a more acceptable version of yourself, a more lovable version, a less inconvenient one. Instead, you feel relief in simply being who you are, whole, unedited, without apologizing for how you feel. A quiet kind of release takes place. You stop reacting from old habits. The things that once controlled you through fear of loss no longer hold that power. You understand that when something leaves, it is not punishment. It is space being made. Space for what better fits the person you are becoming. And with that understanding, you move more slowly, but far more steadily. Pisces has always carried a deep capacity for love, but this time, that love begins to return to you. You learn to pause before saying yes. You learn to be silent without feeling guilty. You learn to say no without long explanations. Not because you have grown cold, but because you are warm enough with yourself to no longer trade your peace. There may be moments when your own life feels unfamiliar. Relationships you once knew begin to change shape. Old paths no longer attract you the way they once did. But instead of fear, a quiet trust begins to form. A sense that this change is guiding you in the right direction. A direction that is not loud, not rushed, but real and clear. You no longer live only to meet expectations. You begin to live, to honor your own emotions. And when you do, the world responds differently. Opportunities come to you, not based on how hard you push, but on how truthful you are. New connections carry a different energy, softer, deeper, No effort required to hold them in place. In this new quiet, you realize that you have not lost anything. You have only released what has already completed its purpose. You are still Pisces, with compassion, with empathy, with an open heart. But now, you carry something else as well. Self-respect, not pride, but a grounded strength, steady enough to stand fully in the world, without armor. And as you continue walking, with this quiet transformation, doors begin to open in the most natural way. No force, no pressure. Simply by being present, as who you truly are, what belongs to you, finds its way. With a calmer breath, with a softer gaze, you begin to sense that you are moving closer to a very important truth. A truth not only about who you are, but about what is waiting for you ahead. A place where light is no longer something rare, but a natural part of the path you are already walking. And then, as those doors begin to open, you realize something important. Opportunity never arrives alone. It always comes with truth. Not loudly, not dramatically. The truth stands there quietly, like a clear mirror, reflecting exactly what already lives inside you. This call may carry an invitation, a financial opening, a new direction in your work, an unexpected relationship, or a path you once never allowed yourself to imagine. But the weight of this moment is not in how it appears. It is in the silent question it places before you. You begin to see that you cannot move forward, with hands still gripping the past. There are things that once mattered deeply, things that carried you through difficult seasons. But now, they have completed their purpose. Not because they were wrong, but because you have changed. And this truth can feel heavy, because letting go has never been easy for Pisces. You are used to holding on, used to staying, used to waiting a little longer, hoping things might settle on their own. But this opportunity does not come to wait for you again. It arrives calmly, as if to say, it is time to be honest with yourself. Honest about what is exhausting you. Honest about where you are giving more than you truly have. Honest about connections that exist out of habit, not nourishment. This truth carries no judgment, only clarity. Pisces has a way of seeing potential everywhere, in people, in situations, even in futures that have not yet arrived. But this time, the opportunity asks you to look directly at the present, not to disappoint you, but to free you. Because when you continue holding on to what has already passed, you don't just hold memories, you hold fatigue that has been gathering quietly inside you for a long time. There may be a moment when fear surfaces, a fear that if you let go, you will lose everything. But the truth is this: what truly belongs to you does not leave. When you choose to live honestly, what must leave is what cannot follow you into what comes next. And this opportunity, whatever form it takes, is gently clearing space for a life that feels lighter and more aligned. You begin to understand that abundance is not only numbers or titles. It lives in the feeling of not having to strain to exist, in working without betraying your values, in loving without shrinking yourself to fit someone else's fear. Real opportunity always asks for courage, not the courage to achieve it, but the courage to release what no longer belongs. And in the moment, you allow yourself to face that truth fully, something deeply human happens. You become kinder to yourself. You see that every chapter had a reason for being there, and that closing it does not erase its value. Instead, it allows you to carry the lessons forward without continuing to carry unnecessary weight. When truth is placed where it belongs, Opportunity no longer feels distant. It becomes a natural step, unforced, unrushed. And in that calm, you sense that you are standing before a very real choice. A choice not only about where you will go, but about how you will treat yourself. From this moment on, in the space that has just been freed, a different kind of silence begins to form, as if life itself is preparing to tell you one more thing, softly, carefully, about what becomes possible when you decide to listen all the way through. And within that same silence, another possibility quietly exists, not threatening, not accusing, just a gentle turn in the road, one you can choose to step into or quietly pass by. If you decide not to answer the call, not to turn inward and listen any further, life will still continue to move. The sun will rise each morning. Work will still need to be done. Familiar conversations will carry on as usual. Nothing collapses right away. And perhaps that is exactly why this moment is so easy to overlook. But Pisces, some things do not disappear. They simply settle. That sense of absence does not shout. It does not demand attention. It shows up in quiet evenings, when you are sitting alone and cannot explain why your heart feels heavier than usual. It appears in achievements that look complete from the outside, yet lack a deep feeling of connection on the inside. You might call it emptiness, fatigue, a sadness without a clear reason. In truth, it is your soul, gently knocking on the door of awareness, reminding you that something within you has not been lived fully yet. If you choose to ignore it, no one punishes you. The universe does not operate through judgment. It operates through resonance. When you are not ready, it steps back, giving you more time. But that time is not meant for standing still. It is meant for noticing the difference between living on momentum and living with awareness. That difference is not found in dramatic events, but in the quality of each small moment. You may begin to notice that you grow tired more easily of things you once accepted without question. Casual conversations lose their flavor. Old goals no longer inspire you. You can keep moving forward, keep trying, keep meeting your responsibilities. Yet somewhere inside, a part of you knows you are postponing the most important meeting of all, the meeting with yourself. This is not failure. It is a deeply human reminder of choice. You are allowed to not be ready yet. You are allowed to feel afraid. You are allowed to stay a little longer in what feels familiar and safe. But each time you do, your soul sends another signal, quieter, more refined, deeper, asking a very simple question. Do you truly want a life that is merely acceptable, or do you long for a life that carries meaning? Some opportunities do not disappear completely. They change shape. They do not return with the same clarity as they did the first time. They become subtler, requiring more effort to recognize, not because you are unworthy, but because every moment of awakening has its own opening. When you close yourself off, the world gently closes with you. No force, no pulling. Pisces is deeply sensitive to the inner flow of time. You know when you are moving against yourself. And if you choose not to listen now, that feeling will not vanish. It simply becomes a quiet companion, appearing whenever you pause long enough to notice it, not to hurt you, but to remind you that you were once invited to step into another possibility of your own life. Within that stillness, something important is being planted. A question that does not need an answer right away, but will remain. That one day, if you find yourself no longer willing to live the same way, you will remember that a very gentle signal once appeared. Not forcing, not rushing, only patiently waiting for you to return. And that quiet waiting, soft and deep, is preparing the moment when you are ready to listen fully, not out of fear of missing out, but because you have come to understand that you deserve a life lived with awareness, with fullness, and truly your own. And then, as the noise of the outside world slowly fades, and only your own breathing remains, something very simple comes into view, without the need for long explanations. Your first feeling was never wrong. It was only covered over by too many other voices, by responsibility, by the fear of disappointing others, by the habit of doubting yourself. But Pisces intuition has always been there, like an underground current, moving steadily beneath the surface of life, quietly guiding you, even when you didn't realize it. This call does not come to unsettle you. It comes to confirm that you have come far enough, that you no longer need to turn back. You have learned too much. Through real experience, through stumbles no one witnessed, through difficult decisions you made in silence. None of that hardened you. It made you deeper, softer, more honest with yourself. There may still be moments of hesitation. That is completely natural. Trusting your intuition does not mean knowing everything that will happen. It simply means trusting enough to take one more small step, even when the road ahead is not yet fully clear. You do not need to rush. You only need to be honest with the feeling stirring inside you, the feeling that says, it is time to stop living through endurance alone. When you allow yourself to trust, something beautiful begins to happen. You stop searching so hard for validation from the outside. You feel more at ease with your own choices, even when they do not match the expectations of the crowd. You begin to understand that life is not a test designed to please everyone, but a journey meant to live in alignment with who you truly are, with kindness and with wholeness. Allowing yourself to receive is also an essential part of healing. Receiving help when you need it. Receiving love without questioning whether you deserve it. Receiving opportunities without immediately fearing they will disappear. You have given so much for so long that you forgot. You also need to be nourished. This call reminds you that abundance is not selfish. It is necessary so you can continue to bring goodness into the world. New doors do not open through force or effort. They open when you stop resisting yourself, when you accept that you have changed, that what once fit may no longer be right, and that this does not make you someone else, but brings you closer to who you truly are. The light you are looking for is not far away. It begins the moment you stop doubting yourself and start listening. Pisces carries a rare gift, the ability to feel deeply and love without conditions. When you combine that gift with trust in your intuition, you do not only change your own life, you create quiet, human ripples that touch the lives of others. You move more slowly, but with more depth. You speak less, but with more truth. And your presence becomes a safe place for those searching for peace. If there is one thing to remember from everything you have just heard, it is this: you are not behind. You are not late. You are exactly on your own timing. This call comes to remind you that your journey matters, that every step you took led you here, and that from this moment forward, you have the right to choose a life that reflects who you are inside. Trust that first feeling. Trust the heartbeat that is leading the way. When you allow yourself to trust and allow yourself to receive, you will see that the new door was never closed. It has only been waiting for you to place your hand on it gently, with certainty, and step through with the tenderness you learned over a very long journey.